Hello, Jordan.
Hello, Michael. We got this thing going.
We got it going. I didn't have Wi-Fi. I'm obviously out of my normal element here in a different location, undisclosed, hidden location, and but we're still getting the podcast in because we upload weekly on Tuesdays, no matter what, forever.
I forgot my microphone upstairs. I was late. Little combination. You're in your secret hideout bunker.
Yeah, slightly on delay. It's all good.
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
You woke up early today. You woke up at like 4 a.m. to coach Gary.
Wow, did you have that ready to go to Jay it as something to discuss, or did it just pop into your brain? You had it ready?
I had it ready.
Man, you're good.
You woke up at like 3:50?
I woke up at 4:25, I think my alarm was.
Oh, really? I thought you started at 4 with Gary. Is it 4:30?
No, he doesn't long commute to get into the city.
Oh,
yeah. We worked out at 6:30.
Got it. I thought that he might have had a travel day or something and he needed to get it in early, and that's why you're like, yeah, I got to get up really early to coach him.
No, not a fourth. If he had a 6 a.m. flight and he had to wake up at 4 o'clock, we would not be lifting before that flight.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. How is the commute?
Good. Got work done on the commute, and he got a good workout in. Came back, hit a lift, little upper body, and I've officially retired from barbell back squats, as you and I were having a discussion about off air. I'm retired, but it was a great workout. That's what's going on.
What are you replacing barbell back squats with?
I mean, I've been hitting full body 3 days a week. I'm just gonna take squats off of 1 day, so I'm only hitting legs 2 days a week. So my two primary lower body moves are deadlifts and Bulgarians, and then it's probably still 18-ish sets of lower body a week, even after taking squats out. They're just my hips hurt after squatting every single time, no matter what I do, and it's been like that for years. And I've taken them out and put them back in, taken them out and put them back in, and there's an element of ego, and then there's like wanting to chase a PR from 11 years ago. That's like, oh, that would be cool if I squatted more than I ever have, but it just doesn't feel good on my hips at all. And there are so many other lower body exercises that are just as effective that do feel really good for me. That at the ripe age of 36, I have put them on the back burner forever.
It's so funny. It's like you'll have moments where you're like, oh yeah, I want to hit a PR that when I was like 22, that was like really important to me. And then like after like one set, you're like, oh yeah, I don't care about this at all.
I don't understand people who can do really heavy sets of squats and lots of volume who don't have anger as their driving force.
Yeah, or they just really enjoy it. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, like people who can basically squat close to failure, heavy, just for the love of the game. That's a wild mindset to me.
Yeah,
and squats are different. Like other compound lower body exercises are. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something absolutely brutal about a barbell back squat.
Yeah, you feel your whole body crunching underneath the weight, and like as you get deeper into it, you feel like your rib cage like being like closed off. like it's a difficult lift, and then you got to drive out of the hole, and sometimes you feel like your butt's gonna like fall out of your butt. It's just it's not a fun, especially a max effort move. It's just not the most fun thing to do.
Yeah. So that's what's going on here. What's up with you? Hello, Jordan. All right. In case that 5-minute intro doesn't work, here's what happened. Gary worked out really early this morning. I retired from squats. We had a few good laughs, and we were both very delayed and couldn't hear each other.
Yeah, we were talking about squats, how it's like you said you don't understand how anyone could squat really heavy without anger fueling that lift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. I had Eric Roberts over last week, and we were lifting together. You know, he's 27 and I'm 32. I'm still young. I get it. but there's a difference between like 27 and 30. There is, just is.
Uh-huh.
And we were lifting and he was going like super fucking heavy. He's strong as shit. Like this kid is unbelievably strong. And then I'm doing my sets and he's watching me and he's like, dude, you could definitely go heavier. And I was like, oh, I know, but I'm good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I'm watching his sets and like every set, like the last few are just grinders, RPE nines and tens, just going. And I'm like RPE 7 to 8 basically every time. And he's like, you could absolutely go up and weight. I was like, oh, dude, I am well aware that I could go up and weight, but some things happened in the last, I don't know how many, 5 years, where if I do that like I used to, then I'm exhausted the rest of the day. And like it's just my workout, it's not worth it because then I can't function as a father, as a husband, as a business owner. Like before, it would get me psyched and I'd be like, that was such a sick workout. Now I'm just going to keep working and have no issues. But after doing it a number of times as I've gotten older, it's like I would rather take slightly reduced intensity and be able to clearly think and function the rest of the day.
There are so many good places to take this. Eric Roberts being an absolute beast
Yep.
in business and content and fitness. Uh, the under discussed topic of, like, especially for coaches who enjoy training themselves, how having very intense workouts actually makes business harder. It makes being creative
Mm-hmm.
harder, adds brain fog, like naps become required. Like it just becomes harder to do things when you're pushing the intensity in your workouts. Um, and that's just hilarious. I love when, because did you guys have two workouts together when he was down there?
Uh, yeah, we technically had two, but one of them I just did cardio for,
I
and then
just
the other one
remember
we lifted. Yeah,
him being like, "Oh, nice, man. Like, that's you were doing some exercise," and he's like, "Yeah, like looks solid." And then later that he's like just ripping curls with a similar
yeah.
weight.
I was doing incline dumbbell bench for sets of 8 with 65s at like an RPE like 7, and he was like, "Dude, you're ridiculously strong." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, bro." And then the next day at the end of the workout, he's doing curls for sets of 8 with 75 pounds.
Which is
And I was
insane.
just like, you're a piece of shit. Like, why would you?
Tell me I'm
Why,
strong.
why would you say that? Like, and I was like, you're such a Daler. Like, you're
Yeah.
the ultimate Daler. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah, it was hilarious. Yeah, just and like using very good technique on the curls. He was like, no, I'm using cheat reps. I was like, you're using maybe a little momentum, but like to even consider curling with 75s is just wild.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's something that's important to consider. I mean, look, if your heart's in it and you're going all out and you're taking that many sets close to failure and you're loving it, amazing. But it does seem to be correlated with age. Like the body just can't handle the same level of wear and tear year after year, decade after decade. And and it's important, like you can think about breaking your training up in sprints and into specific goals, right? If you have
Mm-hmm.
maintenance periods when you're more focused on business or more focused on something else, that's great. And then if you have other periods where you're more focused on some aspect of fitness, cool. Like follow that interest level and that curiosity and where your passion lies at various times. But these are discussions we've had with clients all the time, and with coaches in the mentorship about their clients, which is sometimes like maintaining for a 4 or a 6 or even an 8 month period is a huge win. When you have 15
Mm-hmm.
other things going on in life, when you're having the birth of a child, when things are very stressful at work, when heaven forbid there's some kind of tragedy, and if you can just get a few workouts a week in and like not completely blow it on nutrition, that's a win in those periods of time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And going back to the age, and that's like I have so much respect for like Tom Brady or LeBron James, or even there's like this guy in the UFC. There's multiple, but there's one named Glover Teixeira who's an active fighter. He's in his like he's like 42 or 43 or something, and like he was recently the champion of the world, like the UFC champion at like over 40 years old. And you know,
Wow.
Tom Brady and LeBron, like all these athletes who like it's one thing to, I think, when you're younger to look at them and just be like, oh wow, it's amazing because their skill is incredible. But then like to actually like see how it feels to be getting older and to still like see that they're still performing at the highest level, it is it's insane. And then you can also extrapolate that to our clients, to your clients who are 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and understand like you cannot be pushing them, or you should not be pushing them unless it's just a unicorn, or like they're explicitly asking for that. Like if they're a regular person, there's no way in hell you should be pushing them to an extreme. This isn't their job.
Yeah. Especially, like a young gun, macho 22-year-old trainer. You're working with a 60-year-old who doesn't really have that level of interest in setting back squat PRs. And it's like, no, you're
Yeah.
squatting twice a week. Like, it's not a real program if it doesn't have, and most of us go through a phase like that, but it's
Yes.
important to know your audience, to understand their goals, not to impose your own goals or interests as a coach on your client, but instead to actually listen, understand what they want to accomplish, and then tailor a program toward that end.
It also makes me think about just the practicality of so many other things, like see these young Instagrammers, they're being like, okay, so here's my like 48-minute morning routine that I do every day as soon as I wake up, and I have chai matcha tea and I meditate for 46 seconds, and then I do another meditation for 28 minutes, and then I do my yoga practice, and like your clients are like, oh, I've got 3 fucking kids who are tearing the Christmas tree down and who are like ripping each other apart, and like I can't do it. So it's like, okay, your life is not someone else's life. And then that also, I know a lot of coaches get really upset. They're like, I have my clients fill out a weekly report, and I want to know everything about what they're doing, and they don't do it. And we look at what the report is, and the report takes like 45 minutes to fill out every single week. It's like, don't expect your clients to, like, there are some will be able to do that, but the vast majority, like, you're trying to make their life easier. You shouldn't be another task on the list to do.
Yeah, and this varies from coach to coach, but speaking from personal experience, something like between 1 in 10 and 1 in 25 clients, uh, maybe closer to 1 in 25, 1 in 20 clients like to pour their heart out in a weekly update, and it's therapeutic for them. I mean, you've had many like to pour their heart out in emails. That's one of the benefits of coaching, is just like getting thoughts out, whether they're relevant or not to the process. But for the overwhelming majority of people, it's more need to know information in those updates that takes,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to fill out, not an extensive, number of open-ended questions every single week.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. Do you want to talk about either? Trying to think of what the first subject was without pulling my phone out. I remember the second one. Do you want to talk about? Shoot, we've had a little bit of a wild.
You gonna say the second one first?
No, I'm not. Oh, actually, I had another. Okay, I have two. I have two good ones. Actually, I think I have one good one and one okay but fun one. Before we get into those, what do you think is the optimal for you personally? Answer for you personally, and at for anyone, the optimal feeding window per day in hours.
For me personally, my
to,
optimal
to feel good and like maintain solid body comp.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, it would be somewhere between like 11 and 12, 11 a.m., 12 p.m. starting, and like 10 p.m. ending would probably be my time range. That
Mm.
would be like the time window that I would have like feeding versus fasting. What about you?
So that puts you at 10 to 11 hours as the feeding window where you feel best.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I literally have written here. The 10 to 12 hour feeding window is amazing and the best for fat loss.
Yeah. Why'd you write that?
It's just something I remembered from times being in a slight deficit and feeling really good.
Mm,
It's different for everyone, right? And obviously, like, we throw in feel good because different meal timing works for different people. Some people like a huge breakfast right when they wake up, others don't. Uh, Meal timing doesn't really matter for progress, except to the extent that it lets you hit your calories, protein, macros, food quality, etc. during the day. But not eating for the first couple hours of the day and then also not stuffing my face right before bed just feels
mm,
good most of the time, and
yeah.
allows me to like stay reasonably full on a reasonable number of calories.
Yeah. I agree. And also, it's not such a long fasting window that you ever get really, really hungry either. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good balance of both. I think it's one of the issues with people who try and extend their fasting window super long. By the time they break their fast, they're just freaking like ravenous. And then that often makes the feeding window less enjoyable and less filling because they start off so ravenous to begin with, and it makes it harder to stick to.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. On the other side of the coin, you have people who don't want to have any quote unquote fast, meaning like they start to get say so 11 a.m. is when you 11, 12 is when you have your first meal. If around 9 or 10 a.m. someone starts to feel a little bit hungry, if your goal is fat loss, that's normal. That's like
Mm-hmm.
you should be feeling a little bit hungry at times, and embracing that feeling, not starving, obviously, not unable to focus or do whatever you need to do, but learning to embrace that feeling is going to help you in the long run.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're not hungry, then you're not in a deficit. But I remember when I was younger, I read an amazing quote from Dan John about strength training, and it was to the effect of soreness. Being sore isn't an illness or something like that. Like it's not an emergency to be sore. Like it's okay. Like and it came from a place of understanding that a lot of people like, oh my God, like I get so sore, I'm going to get so sore, and they get worried, and that prevents them from training. He's like, it's not a bad thing. Like it's not a marker that you're making progress inherently, but you shouldn't avoid soreness for the sake of avoiding soreness. And that made me think a lot about hunger and how a lot of people will avoid reducing calories because they're going to get hungry. And it's like hunger is not an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
It's hunger is and especially in recent years, it's been demonized at the slightest whisper of hunger. Just eat whatever you want, queen, eat whatever you want, king, like what, like you deserve it, you've earned it, like whatever. It's like, oh my God, like it at the slightest hint of a oh my God, maybe I could eat something right now, it's like, well, go have that cookie, go have that bag of chips. It's like you couldn't say, like, I don't know, have some water and maybe an apple, or like, I don't know, wait 20 minutes and see if like the hunger dissipates. Like it's very odd to see how many people like really freak out about it.
And here's where I really like the 11, 12 hours, 10, 11, 12 hours just kind of naturally being a feeding window rather than trying to do something like 18-6 where you're confining
Mm-hmm.
everything into a 6 hour window or a 4 hour eating window or one meal a day. Is that, say you wake up at 6 a.m. and you're not going to eat anything until, say, your feeding window's 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., going from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I did this back in the day. I played with like larger windows on daily intermittent fasting. There's no way to avoid hunger. Like no
Mm-hmm.
matter how many, not no matter how many, but if you're eating the same number of calories, if you're eating 2,000 calories in a 6 hour window compared to a 10 hour window, when you eat those 2,000 calories in a 6 hour window, the next day when you have to be awake for 9 hours and you don't want to just
Mm-hmm.
abuse caffeine, like you're going to get hungry to the point where it's detrimental to your life. And so having a little bit smaller meals, perhaps having more meals and spreading them out over a longer period of time helps a lot.
Yeah, completely agree.
Do you want to talk about the biggest things someone can do to improve adherence, like dietary adherence,
Okay.
or the greatest supersets of all time?
Oh, let's do supersets. What you just did also reminded me of something. My mom always, now that I have a kid, my mom always tells me her greatest parenting strategies. She's like trying to impart the wisdom on me. I don't ask, but she will tell me about it. And some of them are actually very good. Some of them are great.
I bet.
One of the ones that she tells me a lot is that she wanted to make me feel like I had a voice and like that my thoughts really mattered, but she also didn't want me to do stupid stuff. So for example, when I was going to get dressed in the morning, she didn't just say, "Hey, you're going to wear this." She would pick out two outfits and she would say, "Would you like to wear this one or would you like to wear this one?" And that way I felt like I had a choice rather than just being like, "I'm going to wear like a cowboy hat and like underwear and a cape." It's like, well, no, you got to wear something appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So she was able to like pick out the appropriate thing, but then give me the option. So you just sort of did what my mom did. Like, okay, Jordan, you could go in a lot of different directions, but I'm going to give you two choices that you can pick from. And I'm really going with the one that I think that you are going to like the most is the best supersets.
Oh, I like them both.
No, but you really like the supersets one for sure.
I do. I like the supersets one.
Okay,
Well,
so let's start with that.
So let's actually start with what is a superset. A superset
Okay.
is generally a pair of exercises that you're alternating between. You could have more than two, but that would be, I guess, a triset or a circuit, some might call it. Rather than if you have 3 sets of 5 reps of a dumbbell bench press, you're what are you laughing at?
I was trying not to make it obvious. Every time you're saying superset, I'm thinking of that guy who's like fucking supersets. It's an old YouTube video.
So good.
It's just going through my head. I'm trying so hard not to laugh every time you say it.
Wait,
Fucking supersets.
is that the My New Haircut guy who did that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Jaeger
Classic.
bombs.
Doesn't hold up though on the
It
rewatch,
doesn't.
which
It
is
doesn't.
which is so unfortunate because that was like the best YouTube video in 2008.
Yeah, yeah, that was so good. Oh my god. All right. Anyway, so keep going with your supersets.
Uh, you have a dumbbell bench press, 3 sets, 5 reps. You're taking 2 to 3 minutes rest between each. And then say you have 4 or 5 more exercises during the workout. You do your warm-up sets on your dumbbell bench, and then you do your working sets, and then you do your warm-up sets on your bent over row, and then you do your working sets, and then, whatever, shoulder press, curl, whatever else you have. But 3 sets, 3 sets, instead of, in an effort to reduce time in the gym and maybe for a little bit of like psychological stimulation for some people, but mostly just as a way to save time, you hit a dumbbell bench and then you hit your bent over row for a set after that. And then you hit another set of your dumbbell bench and then you hit another set of your bent over row. You're supersetting those 2 exercises.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, I guess, on why superset other than saving time?
So I'll add one more thing. Some people get really nitpicky with this. I personally don't give a shit. The example you just gave, the bench and the row, is perfect because that technically, if we're being really technical with it, it's opposing muscle groups is what makes a superset, where it's like you would have like a push and a pull, a bench and a row. There apparently there's the term for if you did the same muscle group that could be like a compound set or a paired set, where like let's say you supersetted a dumbbell bench press with a push up. I still call that a superset, but I've said that online, and there's always some motherfucker who's like, well, actually, that's actually a compound set because it's this muscle group. I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's the same thing. But there's a time and a place
Can't
for
or,
what's up?
or- isn't it just an agonist and antagonist superset?
That would be another way to say it to make it more clear. Yeah, I just know I've said it
But
before, and there's always someone
both
who's like angry
supersets.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but were they jacked and or strong and or not a fake natty? Were they talking about fiber types and the direction of lines of pull? Were they?
I don't think they were jacked or strong, and I don't think that they were on steroids either. I think it was just some like nerdy coach who like gets upset. Like it's the kind of
You know
coach
what?
who doesn't
Bless
have
his
a big
heart.
audience,
Bless his heart.
who gets mad that someone has a bigger audience than them, even though they feel like they know more, and so then they send you an angry DM saying that you're wrong about something. That I feel like that was the situation.
Oh, okay. So did you just tell me the exact person who it is too by telling me that story?
No, no, no. It was
Okay.
it was no. I actually did not. It's not. I don't even think it's a person that you know.
I'm sticking to the story that even if whether they're opposing muscle groups or not, a curl and a push down, uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Here, then let me ask you this: what if they're not opposing or the same muscle groups? What if you're doing a barbell back squat with a barbell bench press? Is that not a
Yeah,
superset because they're not opposing muscle groups?
I would say it's a superset.
You got me tilted by this person, but we're just going to press on.
Yeah. Um,
Not
the,
actually
the,
tilted.
there are a couple different there are different reasons why you'd superset. I think the main reason is saving time. I think it's the main reason why someone would use it. There are other reasons why you could use a superset. For example, there's something called a contrast set, which is another form of a superset, but a contrast set would look like you do a really heavy squat, for example, supersetted with a jump squat with no weight. And the reason you would do this is there's a term, it's called post activation potentiation, PAP, if you want to look into the research. But when you go lift something really, really heavy and then essentially do the same movement without that extra weight, then you can actually generate more force and you'll be able to jump higher. The practical example of this in sports would be if you watch baseball. You see the on deck batter, they put the donut on the bat and that makes the bat heavier for them to swing in the on deck circle. Then when they go to actually up to the plate to start swinging and going against the pitcher, their bat speed is faster. They can get the bat around more quickly. So there are other reasons as well, but I think the main reason, especially in a general population setting, is save time.
PAP.
PAP. That's it. My favorite supersets, especially for general population, is a strength move with a mobility move. I actually don't even do many supersets with strength and strength. More of it's strength, mobility, strength, mobility, strength, mobility. And I literally just I'll actually read you, see if I can find the screenshot really quick. Someone in the inner circle posted during the live call the other day. Okay, perfect. This woman, Meredith, I was doing the Inner Circle Live and she wrote, I just did the lower body day from the June program, a tad bit behind. And it's amazing that you work in the mobility moves into the workout. When I first did that lower body day, I was like, why is this necessary? I want to lift, LOL. But today my inner thigh was sore on the deadlift. And then I did the mobility exercise, partnered with it, and it stretched it out immediately and it felt better. Programming is genius. So it's like, especially for general population people who do not get enough mobility in, they're sitting down a lot of the time. I think having those paired together is so important because a lot of them are not going to warm up properly. They're not going to go through an extensive 7, 10, 15-minute warm up. They're not going to stretch on their own. So rather than just sitting there texting on their phone in between sets, I just have them do mobility exercise.
It's really smart for the reason you just mentioned. And I've tested this with various clients, which is loading up a warm up with mobility work or having a slightly more brief warm up and then putting some of the most important mobility work supersetted in. One of the other big benefits of doing that is when you are pairing two strength exercises, even so when you're benching, your chest, your shoulders, your triceps are all fatigued. And then you get this rest time and then you bench again. If you're doing a bent over row, even though you're in between, if you're supersetting those two, even though you're not fatiguing your chest, shoulders, and triceps on the bent over row, there's still systemic fatigue that is going to hinder performance on the bench. For example, if you're taking 5 reps of bench close to failure, and then you take a 3-minute rest, and then you take 5 reps again close to failure, you're going to perform better than if you do the 5 reps, and then during your 3-minute window, you also hit a heavy set of bent over row as part of that 3-minute rest, and then you go back to bench, because there's total body fatigue to simplify what's going on. When you are hitting a mobility move instead of 2 strength moves, you're not fatiguing yourself at all. And so during that 3 minutes where you would be, even if you're doing something somewhat productive, walking, going to get a drink, like thinking about your next set, it's still more productive to get some mobility work in, because you're not hindering your working set at all.
Yeah, completely agree. It just feels really good, man. I used to do more strength supersets, especially when I was younger. I would do it a lot, and I would do it for my clients, and I still have them occasionally in the inner circle. I've just found that, going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's like, it's that fatigue, and not even necessarily like physiological as much as sometimes psychological, where it's just like, it can be really difficult to bring the intensity that you want to bring, especially when your heart rate's already elevated, you're already fatigued, you're already tired. And then to like hype yourself up for another heavy exercise, even if it's an opposing muscle group, can be very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And over the years, something I've done is increase the rest time. If I have a client who's hitting 2 compound moves supersetted early in the workout, have at least 90 seconds between each, if not 2 minutes between each exercise, which means you're going to be getting 3 to 5 minutes like between the same exercise. And yeah, more supersets of single joint movements later in the workout to get it in. Something that I like, I mean, there's a convenience aspect to supersetting, right? So if you think of a pec deck and a reverse pec deck, you're already sitting there, like, it's single joint, higher rep range, like spinning around, getting both chest and rear delts in. There's also something to be said, and this is more art than science, but on something like any kind of row variation supersetted with any kind of bench variation, I like having a little bit of a back pump from the row for my bench, because that helps with the mind muscle of like making sure my shoulder blades are in the right place. It just feels better to have my back more activated when I'm benching. So that's a combination that I like. Bicep tricep is a classic. Any kind of like, if you're already over by the cables, and this is something that it needs to be thought of, especially with online coaching, when you're not with a client in the gym. If you have someone in a commercial gym and you're having them do a barbell bench press, and then, I don't know, go over and do a pull up, and those are on the opposite side of the gym. Like, for some people it can work. Maybe they're training in the middle of the day. Maybe they have a home gym. Great. But often it doesn't. It's just too inconvenient. And so you can make a note, like, if this doesn't necessarily work, breaking these up into straight sets works great. But thinking about the layout of the gym and coming at it from a logistical perspective, if you're going to be supersetting any exercises, is definitely something to think about.
This is one of the reasons why I think it's so important for people to coach in person before they start coaching online, because a lot of people, like, if you've never really lifted in a public gym, or like a gym like, I don't know, LA Fitness or Lifetime or Golds or any of it, if you've never lifted in there, and you've only lifted in maybe your own home gym or whatever it is, you don't understand that when you have a bench press, if you leave that bench press to go to do an exercise somewhere else, someone else is taking that bench press, or someone's going to start taking your weights off, or someone's going to come up to you and be like, how much longer do you have? And sometimes they'll get aggressive. It's like, and if you've never been in that environment, then you don't understand how that happens. So you don't even consider all of these different options when you're programming for people who are working out in a gym like that. The art and science of program design only part of it has to do with kinesiology and physiology. Like there are other aspects that are more societal and like understanding the psychology of your client, and are they going to be the client who would be totally fine going between the leg press and the leg extension, and like going through that nonsense of making sure people aren't going to get in the way, or do they have that all that stuff in their own home gym or whatever it is? Like there's so much to consider even outside of the physiology and kinesiology, and that's already a lot to consider.
Yeah. Yep. And for any beginners or like people who are relatively new to the weight room, just a general rule of thumb, throwing some of your crap down near where you're working out is a good way to save a bench, whether it's your water bottle, a phone, your paper and pen or your notebook where you're writing down your workouts. Like slap it on there, leave the dumbbells right there. That generally is going to lead to no one touching it for at least the 1 to 3 minutes that you need to walk somewhere else. Not guaranteed, that's for sure. I've seen plenty of people like brush stuff aside and oh, sorry, I didn't even see your keys and your phone and your notebook all sitting right there. It's like, okay.
It was actually funny when Eric was here. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen. That we have a gym in my building that and there's 2 squat racks, and there's a woman who was doing RDLs in one squat rack, and then I don't know what the other exercise was. She was using both squat racks, and she was going back and forth between them and just taking up all of that, and then also had a bunch of dumbbells stacked up in order to be recording herself. I was fucking furious. I was like, you're using both squat racks and you're taking a bunch of dumbbells, not even to lift with them, just so they can hold up your phone so you can film yourself. And Eric was funny. He just like walks up to one of the squat racks and starts doing chin-ups on it. And you can see that like she got visibly frustrated. And it was just like, you're using both squat racks. This is wild. Yeah, it's so sometimes the best thing to do is he didn't even say anything. He just like went up and started doing it, and like she didn't confront him at all. But it was like sometimes just if someone's taking up too much equipment, you don't even need to say anything. Just start using it because you have a right to use it.
That's also a super reasonable, like if someone is squatting and taking 4-minute rests, you can do chin-ups in the same space that they're,
Yes.
It's not like you're unracking their weight, taking the barbell and doing a curl and making them put their weight back on. Like you can use the same
Right.
space in the gym and, to the extent you feel like communicating with that person, most people are very open to it. If I'm ever taking long rest times and I see someone around who wants to be using something, it's like, hey, if you want to jump in, I'm taking 3-minute rests, like go for it, whether it's cables or anything like that. That's funny that he just jumped in. What was the move she was doing in the second squat rack? Do you remember?
I'm trying to
was
remember.
she using the barbell?
I don't remember. If I'd say anything, I'm just gonna be making it up. I just know in the other one she was doing her RDLs, and then because she had the whole stack of dumbbells like stacked up so that she could film herself.
Are there only 2 barbells as well as 2 squat racks, or are there more barbells?
Yeah, there's 2. There might be 3 barbells, but one of them is like in a different part of the gym for on like the landmine for rows and stuff. So there's 2 in the actual squat racks.
I gotcha.
What is like one of your all-time favorite supersets for you personally? Like if you could design like for any muscle groups, for any workout, like what is just one of your all-time favorite supersets?
I mean, I listed most of them boil down to convenience. And so the pec deck and the rear delt fly on the pec deck, I love. I even like when you can use the same attachment, so you don't need to be switching on the cables. So a rope hammer curl with a rope tricep press down.
Yeah.
I like. I like I actually don't love this, but an incline. Usually I don't love supersetting my first movement of the day because I'm going to be going pretty heavy. I probably want to be focused on just that. But sometimes I do like to, if it's a little higher rep, depending on what the goal is or what I'm doing in that training phase. But a incline dumbbell bench with either a chest supported dumbbell row or a bent over dumbbell row, you're in the same area. I again, for the reason of liking the back pump on the benching. overhead work gives me like has historically given me enough shoulder issues and discomfort in general that even though something like a some kind of overhead press with an overhead pull, so that could be barbell OHP with a pull up or a chin up, like I like the sound of that in theory, but in practice it's just too much overhead volume in a short amount of time, so I'm usually breaking those up. Although for clients who can tolerate it and enjoy it and don't have any complaints, like I don't hate that. It's convenient and it makes sense. And then I mean, I guess it's not a superset, but there are like a back move with a curl immediately after. I don't mind, especially later in the workout. So if someone's in like a back specialization phase, because that's what they want to focus on from a strength and muscular perspective, some kind of, whether it's a seated cable row or a chest supported dumbbell row, followed immediately by some curling variation is cool. Yeah.
I
How
like
about
that.
you? You got any supersets you like?
I like supersets going back to the strength and mobility. I like a superset that really complements how the strength movement is going to feel. Right. So for example, I like doing, we'll say a goblet squat or any squat variation supersetted with like a split stance adductor mobilization, because as I'm going through those sets of squats, I can get deeper and it feels way better from doing that superset. Or if I'm doing a hamstring curl, glute ham raise, whatever it is, I'll superset that with a hamstring stretch. So I really like, even if I'm doing a bench press, a dumbbell bench press, whatever it is, I'll superset that with some type of like a pec mobilization. So it's movements that help me increase my range and essentially make the strength movement feel better throughout that workout. So those are my favorite ones.
Yeah, I hear you. No PAP?
Those are fun. I do like PAP. I do like that. I think I'm gonna start adding some more of that in just for athletic purposes. But
For yourself. That's not
yeah,
there's
not
no
something I would put
use
in the
for
inner
Gen Pop.
circle.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to tell the inner circle members to load up a heavy fucking squat and then like, all right, now I want you guys to jump really fucking high. Like it's just, I would never, ever do that. Yeah. Another thing I won't do, like I love cluster sets. I love cluster sets, and I love cluster sets for Gen Pop, even inner circle members, but there's different types of cluster sets. So for example, I will never program squat cluster sets because every time you have to re-rack, like most people often get hurt in a squat during
Explain
the unrack or the re-rack.
explain what a cluster set is for people.
Yeah. So a cluster set is, let's say you're doing 3 sets of 6, right? So
Yep.
you have 3 different sets of 6 reps. Anyone who's lifted for any period of time understands that those last difficult technique tends to break down. It's the most difficult to use good form and to produce enough force where you're starting to fail. So a cluster set, instead of doing a set of 6 straight sets, one example would be you do 2 reps and then you take a 10-second rest. Then you do 2 more reps and then take a 10-second rest. And then you do 2 more reps and then you're done. That's one cluster set of 2-2-2. So the same amount of work is done. You get the same amount of weight lifted, the same total work, same total volume, all of it. It's just you take brief bursts of rest in between every 2 reps. It doesn't have to be 2-2-2. It could be 1-1-1. It could be 3-2-1. It could be like any combination that you want. You get the same total amount of work done, same intensity, same exact stress on the muscles. It's just you get a little bit more rest. And I love doing it for deadlifts. I love doing it for rows. I love doing it for push-ups. I love doing it for chin-ups. I love doing it for so many different movements, but I would never do it for a squat because you have to re-rack the bar and then unrack it between every single cluster. And oftentimes people get hurt during the re-rack or the unrack. And then not to mention just you have to get set up every time. So the rest ends up being like 20 to 30 seconds instead of 10 seconds. Whereas with a push-up or a deadlift a row, you can legitimately have 10-second rest. So it's not even just like not just like, oh, cluster sets are great. It's like, well, which cluster sets and in which situations would you do it? I probably wouldn't do it for bench press either, because you need to have a lift off every single time you're lifting it off in between every single cluster. Like your scaps are getting out of position. It's a whole shit show.
Those are probably the two main ones that you wouldn't do it on, are a squat and a bench press.
Yeah,
just with
exactly.
so much physical and mental energy and focus required to properly unrack and make sure you're in the proper position before hitting that first rep. And then it's like, oh, well, just don't rack it. It's like, well, that's not really a rest if you're just standing there with a whole bunch of weight on your back, or if you're just laying there holding that bar straight above your neck. Like, yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the whole purpose of clusters is to be able to lift more than you would. You'll be able to lift more with a cluster of 2-2-2 than you would be able to lift with just a straight set of 6, which actually means, like, I was wrong before. Like, you're actually probably going to be lifting more weight and getting more total work done just with slight rest. So, like, if you're holding that bar, like you said, just over your neck with heavier weight than you would normally, you're ruining the purpose of this cluster set.
Yeah. The mid-set break is a classic move, though. Late in the workout, trying to take it to failure, squeeze out some extra reps. Different than a cluster set, though. Different conversation. Great episode.
Awesome episode, Michael. That was great. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a 5-star review. And we hope to see you in the mentorship. If you want to grow your online fitness business, you know the place to go. Go join us at the link in the show notes. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.
See you soon. Goodbye.